The old pinewood cabin had always been my retreat. I'd inherited it from my grandfather, tucked deep in the forest of Ridgefield County, far away from the endless hum of the city. The scent of cedar mixed with the crisp mountain air, and the only sound I usually heard was the creek trickling nearby. That peace shattered one Saturday morning when a sharp, persistent knock rattled the front door. I opened it to find a woman standing there, arms folded, lips pursed so tightly I thought they might disappear into her face. She was the very picture of suburban disapproval: a perfectly ironed blouse, pearl earrings, and a clipboard clutched to her chest like a weapon. "Excuse me," she said in a shrill tone. "This is private property, and you don't belong here." I blinked. "Ma'am, this is my cabin." She gave a short laugh, the kind that drips with condescension. "This whole area falls under the jurisdiction of the Ridgefield Pines Homeowners Association. I'm the president, and I don't recall approving anyone moving into this shack." She gestured at the cabin with distaste. My jaw tightened. "Again, this is my property. Been in my family for decades." Her eyes narrowed. "Well, unless you've filed the right permits, paid the annual fees, and submitted to the HOA guidelines, you're trespassing." I should have shut the door right then, but something told me this woman, let's just call her Karina, wasn't going to stop. Karen returned later that afternoon, this time with a tape measure and a camera. I watched from the porch as she marched around the cabin, measuring distances, snapping pictures of the woodpile, even photographing my truck. "What exactly are you doing?" I called out. "Documenting violations," she replied curtly. "Your cabin doesn't meet Ridgefield Pines architectural codes. Your firewood is stacked improperly, your chimney is too tall, and your truck is an eyesore. If you don't leave, I'll have no choice but to call the authorities." I laughed. "Good luck with that." The next morning, I was frying bacon when flashing red and blue lights flickered through the trees. Two county deputies pulled up, their boots crunching on the gravel driveway. Behind them, Karen stood with her arms crossed, triumphant. "This man is trespassing," she declared before I could even greet the officers. "He's refusing to comply with HOA rules. I demand he be removed immediately." The deputies looked at me. I calmly handed them my ID, then pulled out a folder I'd kept in the cabin Safia, a collection of property deeds, tax records, and, most importantly, a document my grandfather had safeguarded for years. When the deputies glanced at the papers, their eyebrows shot up. "Ma'am," one said carefully, "this cabin is on private land. Not only does he have every right to be here, but this property isn't even under your HOA jurisdiction." Karen's face flushed crimson. "That can't be right. The HOA covers all of." I smiled. "Actually, that's where you're wrong. You see, Ridgefield County was unique. Back in the 1800s, it had been largely undeveloped and sold off to a handful of families. My great-great-grandfather was one of them. Through careful planning and stubborn determination, my family had kept acquiring land over generations until, by the time I inherited it, our holdings included nearly every acre of unincorporated Ridgefield County. The county government was essentially a technicality. I didn't just own the cabin, I owned the land under everyone's houses, shops, and even the HOA's precious community pool. I showed the deputies the original county charter, signed and sealed. "As per this document, the land rights remain with the Caldwell family. That's me. The HOA can govern their subdivisions, sure, but they can't dictate terms to the landowner. And I am the landowner of record for Ridgefield County." Karen sputtered like a broken kettle. "That's impossible. We have bylaws. We have meetings. We have rules." One deputy tried not to grin. The other closed his notebook. "Ma'am, he's within his rights. You might want to check your HOA boundaries again." You'd think that would have been the end of it. But no, Karen was nothing if not persistent. Over the next week, she mailed me thick envelopes filled with violation notices. Each one listed absurd infractions. Unauthorized bird feeder on property. Chimney exceeds maximum height by 2 inches. Truck parked at an improper angle relative to the road. Each notice came with a fine. $250 here, $500 there. Finally, she showed up again, marching right up to the porch. "If you don't pay the $7,250 you owe and fines, we'll place a lien on your cabin," she announced smugly. I set down my coffee. "Karen, let me explain this one more time. You have no authority here." In fact, a broken bar. I pulled out another document, this one freshly signed by the county registrar. As of last month, I filed official paperwork to dissolve HOA jurisdiction over Ridgefield Pines. Effective immediately, your entire association no longer exists. Her eyes widened. You a broken bar, you can't do that. I shrugged. Landowners' rights. Turns out when you own the county, you can redraw jurisdictional boundaries however you want. Your hoe? Gone. Her face turned ghostly white, then beet red in an instant. This isn't over, she hissed. Word spread fast. A week later, I received an invitation, more of a summons to attend a special emergency meeting of the Ridgefield Pines Homeowners Association. Out of curiosity, and maybe a touch of mischief, I went. The meeting hall buzzed with tension. Neighbors filled the chairs, whispering anxiously. Karen sat at the head table, flanked by two board members who looked like they regretted ever being involved. She stood and banged a gavel. Order, order. This man, she pointed at me like I was a criminal, is threatening the integrity of our community. He claims to own the county and has illegally dissolved our association. Gasps rippled through the room. I stepped forward calmly, placing a stack of documents on the table. Not a claim, a fact. Here are the deeds, the charters, the legal filings. You've all been living on Caldwell land for years. The county collects taxes, sure, but the ownership never changed. Silence, then murmurs. Then a man in the back raised his hand. The broken bar, if he owns the county, does that mean a broken bar we've been paying HOA fees for nothing? Karen's face twisted. No, the HOA keeps this community safe. We enforce rules, maintain standards. Or, another woman interrupted, you just collect money and bully people over paint colors. Laughter erupted. For the first time, Karen looked uncertain. In the weeks that followed, the HOA crumbled. Residents realized they no longer had to fork over hundreds in arbitrary fees. Some celebrated by repainting their houses neon colors, others built fences without approval, and one guy even parked a boat on his lawn just because he could. As for me, I received dozens of thank you notes. People invited me to barbecues, kids drew me pictures, and one local baker dropped off pies every Friday in gratitude. And Karen? She vanished from public life. Rumor had it she moved to another state, muttering about ungrateful neighbors and unfair land barons. The cabin, once a quiet escape, became a symbol of freedom for the county. Whenever I sat on the porch, sipping coffee and watching the sun rise, I couldn't help but chuckle at the irony. Karen had called 911 to throw me off my own land. But in trying to wield power she didn't have, she'd exposed the truth. I didn't just own the cabin, I owned everything. And no amount of HOA rules could change that. Epilogue. Lessons learned. Some folks asked why I didn't just flex my ownership earlier. The truth is, I never cared about controlling anyone. My family had always respected the people who lived on the land. We wanted them to thrive, not feel lorded over. But sometimes, when someone like Karen pushes too far or when they abuse rules for their own ego, you have to remind them where the real authority lies. In the end, Ridgefield County became a freer, happier place. No more arbitrary fines, no more architectural violations, just neighbors living the way they wanted, the way it should be. And me, I got my peace back. Though every now and then, when I hear the wind knock against the door, I half expect to see Karen's furious face on the other side.